Westbury aluminum railing, Sorrento C60 and C61 installation. In this video, we will walk you through the installation of the C60 and C61 Westbury Sorrento mesh railing system. We'll cover standard and crossover installations, show how to determine your installation scenario, and demonstrate step-by-step how to complete a safe, successful installation. Tools and hardware. Before you begin, determine which installation scenario applies to your setup. The steps are similar, but the amount of cutting and disassembly depends on post configuration and spacing. Scenario 1. Line crossover posts on both ends. If your post spacing matches the section length and you are using the line crossover posts on both ends, the section will fit as is and no cutting is required. If your installation scenario does not require cutting, skip to the 4-minute and 22-second mark in this video. Scenario 2, standard post with cap or corner crossover post. If your post spacing matches the section length, but one end uses a post with a cap or a corner crossover, you will cut the top rail slightly to match the bottom rail. Scenario 3, post spacing shorter than section length. This is the most common scenario. If your post spacing doesn't match the section length, you will need to disassemble the section and cut the rails and mesh infill individually to the correct length. Cutting rails. If your installation scenario requires cutting of the rails to fit post spacing, begin as follows. Measure the distance between the inside edges of the posts. Mark the bottom rail 1/4 of an inch shorter on each end to allow for mount clearance. Cut with a circular or chop saw and repeat for all bottom rails. The instructions for cutting the top rail are dependent on the type of post you are connecting to. We will cover posts with caps, line crossover posts, and corner crossover posts in this video. For posts with caps, mark and cut the top rail 1/4 of an inch shorter on all ends connecting to a post with cap to allow for mount clearance. For line crossover posts, mark and cut the top rail 1 inch longer than the bottom rail on all ends connecting to a line crossover post. For corner crossover posts, mark and cut the top rail 1/4 inch shorter on all ends connecting to a corner crossover post. Cutting mesh. The distance from the post to the edge of the mesh infill must be within 2 1/16 inches to 3 7/8 inches on each side of the infill. If the distance falls above this range, the post spacing must be altered. If the distance falls below this range, the mesh infill must be cut. After removing mesh from the top and bottom rails, cut the mesh to the right of the next rod using an 18-inch bolt cutter. Avoid using a metal wheel, as it may damage the powder coating. Installing mounts. Line up the Westbury post mount template according to section height. Insert the bottom mount base into the bottom hole and fasten to the post with self-tapping pan head screws. Repeat for the top rail, using the hole corresponding with the section height. If you are using a crossover or corner crossover post, the top mount is not installed. Alternatively, mounts can be installed without the Westbury mount template. Position the bottom mount base so there is a 2-inch clearance from the installation surface to the bottom of the rail. Keep the base centered on the post and secure using the provided self-tapping screws. For the top mount, measure up 32 5/8 inches for 36-inch tall railing, or 38 5/8 inches for 42-inch tall railing from the top of the bottom mount to the top of the upper mount. Keep the base centered and fastened with self-tapping screws. Installing rails and mesh. Sorrento C60 and C61 sections come pre-assembled with zip ties. If your installation scenario does not require cutting of mesh, and if you have achieved the correct rail size, you may proceed by placing the pre-assembled section into the mount bases. Leave the zip ties in place until the rails are secured. If your installation scenario requires that you disassemble the section, then you must install one piece at a time. Place the bottom rail into the mount bases and fasten with provided flathead self-tapping screws. Repeat for all bottom rails. If the rubber gasket was accidentally removed from the rails during disassembly, insert it back into the bottom rail as shown. Keeping centered, insert the mesh infill into the bottom rail. Ensure that the vertical rods face toward the interior of the enclosed area. Place the top rail into the mounts and over the mesh infill. Secure the top rail with provided flathead self-tapping screws through the side of the mounts into the rail. Carefully align each mount cover before applying even downward pressure with a rubber mallet to snap it into place. Do not force. Covers can be damaged if misaligned. Repeat installation for all mesh, top rails, and mount covers. Installing end covers. Position top and bottom end cover brackets on end covers, tapping with a rubber mallet until tight. Slide end cover over the end of the mesh. Ensure end cover is parallel with the post before fastening. Attach the bottom end cover bracket with two number 10 by 5/8 inch pan head screws. Next, attach the top end cover bracket using the same process. Repeat for all end covers and brackets. Installing caps and flares. To disassemble before installation, rotate the flare to expose the underside locking mechanism. Position the flare on a raised surface so that the smaller finishing piece extends past the edge. Hold down the U-shaped locking base while tapping the finishing piece downward with a rubber mallet. This releases the piece from the snap lock mechanism. To disassemble while on the post, insert a putty knife beneath the finishing piece to create slight elevation. With the putty knife in one corner, tap the U-shaped locking base with a rubber mallet to disengage the snap lock. To assemble the flare, slide the U-shaped locking base around the post. Align the finishing piece atop the U-shaped locking base and tap lightly with a rubber mallet until it locks into place. Finally, line up the caps to the top of the posts and tap down with a rubber mallet. Thank you for watching this installation video for Digger Specialties Westbury Sorrento Mesh Railing.